about my work, how it's evolved. There's been a number of points where I started doing something different and new that have turned into new phases of my work. I call them breakthroughs. With products like Cheerios that had text on it, I started cutting out the words, cutting the words into their individual letters, and laying them out and seeing what else I could spell. I have a couple of Cheerio boxes that have messages like do the right thing and do unto others and be good and smile and try your best and seek the truth, seek wisdom, all sorts of things to find within the composition. My next project, I decided to do a collage that was all text. And the first one I came up with was a collage called You Know What They Say. At some point, I was at a store that was selling my surreal juices. And I was with my daughter, Lucy, my oldest daughter, who I think she was 9 at the time. And I guess I was drinking a lot of the juices and I needed to use the men's room. So I went to the men's room and it was a busy supermarket. There was like 6 people online to use the men's room. And a guy in front of me, an older gentleman, turned to me and he said, "You know what they say, when you gotta go, you gotta go." And I just thought, that's, for some reason that struck me as like such simple wisdom. I spent a few weeks or a month making a list of all these sayings, and then I made a collage of them. And it's almost like a crazy Scrabble game, I like to think of, because it's these sayings in all directions. And that was my first collage that was all words. And when you look at it, before you realize what it is, it's just a crazy collection of fonts from all these famous packages. And then when you start reading it, there's all these messages in it. The next one that I did was the Gettysburg Address. I got it in my head that the Gettysburg Address was an iconic pop culture kind of a thing as well, because even though it's a very serious and important historical document, 77 years ago is something that, everybody's heard of. You're looking at my collage of the Gettysburg Address, you're saying, oh yeah, that letter is from, Frosted Flakes, that letter is from Stovetop Stuffing, that letter is from Ziploc bags or Glad bags or 1,000 other products. It gives it this other reason to look closely at it. And then the next thing you know, you're reading one of the most important, meaningful speeches in American history. So I love that. Plus, one interesting thing about that one is that I really tried to not put any images into it besides the letters. And then I filled in the space between the letters with little bits and pieces of color because really the idea was to make it look like stained glass and not have logos and stuff in it. And then when it was finally finished, I noticed that one character snuck in there. It was the G in 77 years ago. The G in ago was from Goldfish. And the G had a fish on it. And sometimes I'll keep little bits and pieces of things surrounding other things just for a point of context. Lincoln was the perfect example of someone who was self-taught. I mean, he only had, I think, 1 full year of schooling, they say. And yet he taught himself the law, he taught himself everything he wanted to know. He read the Bible cover to cover, memorized it, Shakespeare, and even when the Civil War started, he taught himself about war. So he was the perfect example of a self-taught person, which is one of the reasons I really, love learning about him. But so I thought to myself, well, he was like a school of fish unto himself. So that's how the little fish snuck on there. So that breakthrough of doing a historical document led me to doing things like the Declaration of Independence, the preamble to the Constitution, a bunch of the amendments, and not too much later, just shorter quotes. I did a piece not too long after that of a Beatles lyric from the song I Am the Walrus. which I think is one of John Lennon's most poetic lyrics. I am he, as you are me, and we are all together. And so now over the years, I've done several hundred text-based quotes and lyrics, and it's like a collection of all the people I'm interested in and things I've learned. And, I guess if I've done 1,000 lyric collages, it has to all go back to the first one. That's the breakthrough.